Welcome, everyone, to Career Happy Hour. It's Andrew Beach, Executive Coach. I help professionals like you communicate your value to find great opportunities faster. That's whether you're working or not. Today on Career Happy Hour, we're going to complete our review of the book Networking by Douglas B. Richardson. Networking by Douglas B. Richardson. You should see that information in the comments section of this video. If you're interested in the book, it's out of print. So I think copies are like $1, maybe $2. Shipping's like $8-9. I'm not sure when Amazon will get it to you based on current events. If you could please do me just a really quick favor, wherever you're joining, let me know where you're joining from. That would be favor number one. Favor number two, if you could please share this video. If you're on LinkedIn, just click the little share button down below and share it with your network. Hey, join me with Andrew here on Career Happy Hour, because today is the last day we'll be working on this book. That's good news. And it's a really short chapter, maybe 5-6 pages. And then I'm going to take some of your questions. The other part of the good news is that the service that I use called Restream is actually giving me early access to bring guests on the show. So right now, even though I have this high production background image and all this, Eric, good to see you. Welcome. Even though I have all this stuff, when we do that, I won't have the cool background. You'll get to see my beautiful my beautiful home office, my home studio. It's not the best looking background, but it works. You probably have seen it on some of my other videos. But if you have any questions at all, please go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer, and we'll get to those at the end of the broadcast. After I'm done with the book reading, then we'll answer the questions. So it's good to have you. Wherever you're joining, go ahead and leave a comment. Share it with your networks. If you're on Facebook, Twitter. Twitter's a good spot to share if you're watching on Periscope. YouTube, just go ahead and give it a like. Maybe even share it to whatever social network you mostly post on. So how is everybody? It's Friday, and it's Mother's Day this weekend. You have anything going on for Mother's Day? Let me know in the chat box. So what are we reading today? We're reading the networking book. Here's me holding the networking book, and you can see my wonderful home studio in the background, including my office mate. Yes, that is a reindeer. Here's the thing. This book was published in the early 90s. It's called Networking. It's underwritten by the Wall Street Journal and the National Business Employment Weekly. And it's just called Networking. If you do a search for that on Amazon, you're probably not going to find it if you search networking. If you put in the additional words like National Business Employment Weekly, it'll pop right to the top. But the subtitle here, as you can see, is Insider Strategy for Tapping the Hidden Job Market Where Most Jobs Are Found. And we're on the last chapter today, chapter 11. So we're going to hop in, actually, and we're going to talk about chapter 11. Chapter 11 is titled What the Future Holds. So the nice thing about this book, and I think we probably have talked about this many times, is that we all know why we should network, right? We need to make connection with people, and this is how most people find jobs. There's a plethora of reasons why you should network. What many books don't offer us is the opportunity to know how to network. And networking, how you network, is what this book is all about. And that's why I'm sharing it with you, because it's, of all the networking books, and I've read a lot of them, many of the main titles you can probably think of. One I'm going to do next is probably that book, 20-Minute Network Meeting. I just like to audit that and see what I can draw away from it. I'm always looking for new sources, so if you have any ideas for networking books that I should read, let me know in the chat. I've read many of the big ones like Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty, and many others. But that said, let's get into chapter 11. Chapter 11 in the National Business Employment Weekly book on networking. Chapter 11 is What the Future Holds. Most of us enjoy doing most of what we do best. Conversely, there's a natural tendency to dislike activities that we haven't mastered and that make us feel awkward. For that reason, some networkers, after embarking on their first few meetings, will firmly believe that networking is the pits. I probably would have picked a different adjective. It also ends with its. Not recognizing that they must walk before they run. These tryouts translate their initial discomfort into a decision to bag networking and use other avenues to pursue their job search. They're making a big mistake. Rather than giving up, think of a sports activity you tried to learn. Remember how you had fun even when you were on the early part of the learning curve. I even see that when I'm coaching my kids in their soccer. That was a few years back. The difference was that when you were learning tennis, a computer program, or how to ride a horse, you probably were not being judged on the quality of your early efforts, and the stakes weren't terribly high. When networking, you're holding yourself up to others' scrutiny, and you're definitely being judged. The stakes in any particular meeting are low, but the whole purpose of networking is pretty serious: to find appropriate and meaningful employment and redirect your entire life. No wonder then that the initial frustrations of networking, or the occasional major disappointment when a meeting goes horribly, turn off many networkers. They never get good enough to reap the benefits. They choose not to go around, so nothing comes around. Their resulting verdict is that networking doesn't work. If you're lucky, your early meetings will include one in which someone is so supportive, or you learn so much and you get turned on to so many other people that your adrenaline surges and boosts you through the initial insecurities and doldrums. So what is that? So here's something for those of you that are really good at networking, or maybe don't have to network. This is a great way for you to help other people and get them encouraged in the activity. Is help them learn the activity. Hi, Leslie. Good to see you. Help them learn the activity. Be an encouragement. Lead them to other people. Teach them the craft. Take the extra time. I do that all the time, by the way. War story. I like these, the war stories. Light dawns on Marblehead. This isn't as much a war story as it is a recurring event. It has happened numerous times in pretty much the same way. The career counselor has schooled a job seeker in basic networking technique, thrown him out bodily into the cruel world of networking, and seen him return from the first few meetings depressed, bummed out, or convinced that he's a hopeless failure. After about the 5th or 6th meeting, however, the counselor looks up and finds the job seeker leaning against a jamb in his office door. The job seeker says, smiling, a kind of wry grin, and I quote, "I'm not quite sure how to explain this, but I got into the meeting, nervous as usual, and sort of crashed my way through the decompression and launched into my 2-minute drill. About halfway through, a peculiar realization came over me. This stuff is true. I'm not making it up. I'm not embellishing it. I'm not trying to fool anyone. I'm only saying what's true. That means I can't possibly forget it, and I don't have to worry about losing my place in some script, because if I slip a cog, all I have to do is go back and tell the truth." Suddenly, I felt calm. I don't have to be a performer. I just have to try hard to be clear and get to the point. The meeting turned out to be really enjoyable. When I loosened up, the contact loosened up. When I loosened up, the contact loosened up. I think we're on our way, unquote. One of the strongest incentives to maintain your pace during the early efforts at networking is the enormous amount of energy you've already invested in your self-assessment and in developing your master contacts list and setting up a planning tracking system. The prospect of seeing all that effort go to waste should motivate you. If it doesn't, the thought that countless other job seekers, many of them your competitors, are using the networking technique successfully should serve as propellant. Let me make a note there. I just saw a release, I think in the last week, that I think there's now in the United States over 14% unemployment when it was down in the 3s. That means that there's a lot of competition in the marketplace. That means that the ones that are successful are the ones that are going to do what others don't want to do. Keep that in mind when you're going through this process, that it should serve as motivation for you to network and not make as many job applications, because there's going to be way more competition in that space. The first 5 meetings are hell. If they're not, then you're not extending yourself. But after you groove your swing and begin to control the process rather than be controlled by it, momentum will develop naturally. This early rocky period will also serve as a helpful model for weathering later stretches when things go momentarily flat in your search. The message for early stage networkers, therefore, is to keep the faith and keep moving. Maintaining momentum. Maintaining momentum when things bog down or blow up. This is a message of resilience, evidently. Once a job search is well underway, it's far more common for networkers to report that they have too much to do rather than too little. Isn't that the truth? All those tasks, scheduling, tracking, planning, calling, meeting, following up. Doesn't that sound like a recruitment coordinator, right? Following up with candidates, scheduling interviews. These are all the same things that recruitment coordinators are doing. Will keep you very busy. But there still may be times when the process slows or when you run low on new contacts or new directions. Several factors can be at play here. It's not uncommon to have a harder time scheduling meetings during the summer, when more people are off on vacation. And that's going to be more than true here in 2020, because most of the people have been sequestered, a lot of places have been closed. What do you think this summer is going to be like? You can imagine, right? Candidates who conduct their searches within tightly defined geographical areas may find that they've succeeded in reaching the major players, the high-profile prospective clients in their area. But then they feel that there's no one new to meet. Does that ever happen to you? No one new to meet? That's the beauty of LinkedIn, by the way. 670 million accounts. You think you're ever going to run out of people to meet? During recessions, the streets may be awash with legions of similarly credentialed job seekers, all trying to network with the same base of contacts who, after a while, get tapped out, overused, and fed up. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that makes people fed up, or gal. A good technique for sustaining momentum during a flat period is to change activities. If new meetings are proving hard to schedule, grab your tracking list and spend more time looping back and following up than you normally would. Go to the library and peruse the latest batch of directories to see whether you can identify some new granfalloons. If you don't know what granfalloons are, you need to go back and watch the rest of the videos. Attend more conferences, meetings, and luncheons, any gatherings where groups of people congregate. Of course, right now that's problematic. There aren't any of those things going on, but there's plenty of virtual networking events and things going on. Go to Eventbrite, go to Meetup, do Google searches. There's plenty of events you could probably find on Facebook as well. And you have an excuse to meet new contacts. Revise and update your tracking system, purge stale or useless information from your database. Sometimes a loss of momentum won't come from structural difficulties with the networking process itself, but rather from a transitory fit of the psychological blahs. The psychological blahs, that's nice. We can talk forever about networking meetings being low-key, but the fact remains that they're often stressful. That's the truth. The natural extroverts and sales types, pressure may not be felt keenly, but for many job hunters, having to consistently push forward to schedule, track, write, talk, and explain themselves gets wearing after a while. For those in desperate need of work or those whose natural tendency is to exercise fierce control over their lives, there may be a tendency to run a job search like a 100-yard dash rather than a paced 10,000 meters. Athletes who engage in endurance sports learn to keep just within their aerobic threshold, that is, to hold a pace where they can still breathe and not go into oxygen debt. If they exceed that threshold, they soon erode their physical and emotional resources. At that point, every problem looks twice as tough and every disappointment feels twice as keen. Boy, isn't that the truth. The same holds true with the rigors of networking and running a job search. Hi, Asina. Good to see you. Happy Friday from Los Angeles. During our job campaign, be good to yourself. You may find that you need more sleep than when you were beating your brains out in your old job. Surprised? Don't be. This is new territory, and newness is stressful for all of us. And by the way, don't you think you're going to feel some newness when you get a new job? Isn't there going to be a learning curve there that you have to learn? Why not learn this networking skill now? Perfect it now so that you can use it for the rest of your career. You may gain or lose some weight. Unless this becomes so extreme that you look like either you have no self-control and your clothes don't fit, or you've contracted some wasting disease, don't become preoccupied with a few pounds either way. First things first, find a great new job, then turn your focus to getting back into shape. Don't mind your health, however. Take an exaggerated approach to eating well and getting regular exercise. Are you doing that? Are you eating well and getting regular exercise? Me, hit and miss. If you hate Brussels sprouts and jogging, you can delete them from your regimen after you start your new job. Have checkups twice as often as normal during a job search. See your dentist more often. 2. Changes in body chemistry caused by long-term stress can rapidly increase plaque formation. Wow, I didn't know that. That's good news. Taking time out. Taking time out. If you utterly lose it and can't stand the prospect of one more meeting or another handwritten thank you note, give yourself a vacation. Note, please, that we're not encouraging you to give in to the rescue fantasy. A nap here, a nod there, followed by 6 months of daytime TV. But schedule some time away from the job search that's solely for you and your family. 1 week away won't demolish your networking efforts because there really is no way to rush the networking process. Those are the best words in this chapter so far. There's no way to rush the networking process. Build at least a few days off the job into each calendar quarter. Mark them on your planning calendar with a bright colored marker and use them as a carrot on the stick to keep you moving. I know that can cause some heartburn for most of you because, hey, I need to find a job, and sometimes taking time off from the job search doesn't seem logical, but it is. It actually allows you to reapproach the situation with new enthusiasm. As part of the orchestration of your search, evaluate your finances and do some short, medium, and long-term contingency planning. Don't let the uncertainty of the search process force you into draconian measures that make you and your family feel like deprived martyrs. Keep your overall life equation as stable as possible for your own sanity and that of your spouse and children. Keep your networking efforts confined at a pace that you find comfortable, manageable, and sustainable. Pointless networking. Pointless networking. Over and above nurturing your existing network, build time into your business schedule to meet and cultivate still more contacts. For some people, this is in their nature. They love looking into other people's lives, learning new things, interacting, collaborating. They may not even be aware of how they're empowering themselves. War story. I love the war stories. Where common sense comes from. A woman executive who is known far and wide for having an enormous amount of common sense seems singularly well-rooted with a pragmatic turn of mind that serves her and her company well. Most people assume this strength is the result of some innate intellectual gift, some natural aptitude for seeing in the heart of things. She's certainly endowed with good critical thinking powers, but much of what others are so quick to label common sense derives from a phenomenal supply of anecdotal information. She simply knows a lot about a lot of things and a lot of people. Her knowledge goes deeper than the formal version of reality printed in newspapers and press releases. She always seems to know what's really happening behind the scenes. Few topics come up on which she can't add some practical insight based on having a richer source of information than the other participants in the conversation. Where does she get this font of uncommon knowledge that others call common sense? She engages in pointless networking, lunches, breakfasts, and meetings that have no perceptible agenda. If she reads about a person whom she finds interesting, she introduces herself, suggests they get acquainted, and usually acquires a friend, or at least a new source of information. She's not devious or manipulative, she's just curious. She finds different people interesting and seeks them out from a broad range of industries, levels, and callings. She has never had to run a job search. So the thought that she's networking has never occurred to her, but she is. 1. Gathering a lot of informal information. 2. Acquiring enormous visibility along the way. 3. Meeting a constant stream of new people. That sure sounds like networking. Just do it. This is my favorite part. And we're almost to the end here. Just do it. The Nike motto, just do it, must work, or the company wouldn't sell so many shoes. It appeals to people because it strikes a chord that resonates within most of us. At some point, all the planning, theorizing, and preparation are through, and it's time to cut to the chase. The longest journey begins with a single step, and so do the short journeys. You have to decide it's time to start, and you have to be prepared for an exploration, even though its duration and destination can't be mapped in advance. Skilled and productive networking isn't a matter of luck, unless you define luck as hard work meeting up with opportunity. We see no point in wishing good luck to those who have worked through this book. Instead, we wish you the good things that effective networking requires. Good self-awareness, good planning, good discipline, good interpersonal skills, good curiosity, good faith, good stamina, good determination, good confidence, good optimism. Go for it. That concludes our reading of the National Business Employment Weekly book on networking. Now I'm available to answer your questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. Happy to answer. Would like to see something. Eric is here, Leslie's here, Hasina is here. If you have any questions at all, put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And let me know where you're joining from, if you're familiar with the Just Do It. Have you ever just done it? You know what I mean? So, good. Any questions, go ahead and leave those in the chat. Happy to answer. One of the biggest questions I have is anybody hiring? And the bigger question you have to ask yourself is, who is hiring? The other question is kind of self-defeating. Is anybody hiring? So literally in the last 2 weeks, I've had at least half a dozen people I know, candidates I coach, okay, get offers for interviewing, offers for employment. Actually, one candidate got 2 offers. Hey, Venki, good to see you. Erica, welcome. Let me know what questions you have. Happy to answer. This is your time. Go ahead and fire away. So we have to ask ourselves, and the nice thing about LinkedIn is they're publishing almost constantly the different companies that are in a process of hiring or finding new people. So companies in play, which ones would I look at? A lot of the people that I coach are in technology or IT, and they're getting opportunities at AWS, Amazon. So if you're looking for people that are companies that are hiring, you might consider Amazon. And I can assure you, a lot of people that come to me and say, Amazon, don't they have a bad reputation? Well, I tell you what, some of the people they're hiring now give me really encouraging thoughts that that could improve. I'll just leave it at that. Whenever you hire new people, it changes the culture. Whenever you lay off people, changes the culture. Change the people, change the culture. That's just the way it works. And I'm really encouraged by what's happening there. That, hey, I might even consider it, right? It's not something that ever crossed my mind. I love what I'm doing now, but you never know. Somebody may come knocking. And my philosophy is, and maybe yours is too, that the eyes and ears are always open to conversation, always willing to have an interview, always willing to meet with a recruiter. I'm always open. And I think that's a great mindset, is that the fact that you do or don't want to work somewhere, I don't think that's relevant to the conversation until you get an offer. Okay, when you get an offer for employment, then you have to decide, do or do I not want to work at this place? And many people make that decision before they've even had a single conversation to understand the person, the company, the environment, the teams they'd be working with. All that stuff has been left to the wayside. I don't think that's wise strategy. The other things I've heard recently is, do I have to change who I am based on the market, right? Do I have to change what I'm looking for? What you may have to recalibrate is the companies and titles you're seeking. It doesn't mean you have to change what you do and how you do it. It does mean that you may have to look at different opportunities based on your skills. Look around, ask around. There may be companies that are at the top of your list that now are not in play. And honestly, there's some at the bottom of the list, or maybe that aren't on the list that need to be higher up. So if you have any questions, this is free career coaching. I call it career, it's up here, I guess. Up there, over there, over there, over there, over there. There it is, up there. Career happy hour. And by career happy hour, I mean I'm here every Friday, 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'm here to answer your questions. Yes, I'll share some information. I've been sharing a book that I find super valuable because I know that a lion's share of the people that I coach are going to find their opportunities through networking. That's why they come to me. That's why I coach them, because that's my skill. That's where not because I've done it 4 times in my career, but because all the people that I've coached, or at least presented this kind of approach, have gotten results too. So whatever it is for you, what questions do you have? I'd like to know. What questions do you have? Let me know. Put them in the chat. And by the way, if you're interested, I'll get to your question here in a second, Venki. If you're interested, I'm going to start offering free coaching one-on-one during these Friday sessions. The service that I use, Restream, offers the capacity now through their portal to bring guests onto the show. Right now, it's a single guest. So if that's something you're interested in, please send me a private message on LinkedIn that you're interested in that. And I'll give you a link next Friday, sometime 3 p.m. Pacific time or after, and we can come on and have a conversation. Okay? Question in the chat by Venki. Thank you, Venki. Is there any internships for BS in computer science? Computer science always tends to be a high demand role. High demand. What does that mean? That means you may not need an internship. They might offer you a job for employment. Now, if you're in school, that might be a different, I don't know your circumstance or your situation, but if you're in school, that might be different, right? You might be still needing to complete a year of college or your master's program or whatever, but I wouldn't sell yourself short on taking an internship when truthfully you could get full-time work. Okay. So part of that is people think that the best way to find opportunities is through online application resume. And that's a great way to potentially go insane because you're doing the same things over and over again, expecting to get different results. And when you don't, you get frustrated. And then you do it some more and you get even more frustrated. Yes, networking, as you might imagine, is frustrating, but the odds are way better. The best I've seen on applications currently is somewhere around 8 to 10%. That means I put in 100 applications, I might get 8 to 10 interviews. Networking, on the other hand, if you network with the hiring manager, at minimum 50%. So that's for every 2 hiring managers you meet, you'll find 1 opportunity. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you'll actually get a job? No, just like applications, you may not be a fit. But wouldn't it be great if you met 2 hiring managers, found an opportunity that wasn't a fit, and you just moved on to the next one, and it was? So I think that's great. Let's see. Candidates looking for work in Portland, Seattle Bay Area. Yes, there's jobs in all those spaces. You have to know people, and you have to make yourself known to people. And learning the networking craft, as we outlined in these sessions, is a great way to go. Candidate is finishing in June and going to master's at USC in September. Any virtual job fairs? I'm not aware. I'm sure there are. I heard of one just the other day, virtual something or other. It was for creatives. So I think you'd probably have to do some kind of a Google search on that. I haven't heard of any. I know the company that I'm affiliated with has virtual career fairs once or twice. Well, actually, I think 5 times a year. But we do that just for the candidates in our programs. So, but I don't know of any in the public market. If you find any, certainly send them to me. I'd be happy to distribute and share with other people. I might do my own search after we're done here because that's a great question. However, you have to understand, what are you hoping to get out of a career fair? I think that's worth considering. Many people come to a career fair and they're thinking, hey, I'll bring my resume, plop it down, and someone's going to give me a job offer. I've never seen that happen. Hardly ever, except for, I guess that wouldn't be called a career fair. It'd be called something else, where they're placing people in hourly wage jobs in a production environment of some kind. But the idea behind the value in my mind to a job fair is the capacity to network with people. And that means hiring teams, recruiters, fellow job seekers who are going to get hired somewhere eventually. So I think it's important that you're kind of at the front end of their curve when you have their attention and they're not on the job in that new role, that you've established some credibility and a brand with them. Okay? So that's the value. I would actually take 1 or 2 resumes to a job fair, but I'd take like 20 or 30 contact cards, just little business cards with my information on them. And I found that to be really, really helpful. So good. Venki, I don't know much about the situation with your master's candidate. If somebody's going from bachelor's to master's, are they in SoCal? I guess that would be a place to look. SoCal would have, where would I look for that? I think I would start identifying companies on LinkedIn. First identify companies you'd like to work for. Are you willing to travel? What is the geography you're considering? And then I would go direct to the people that either participated as an intern at that company in the past, or I'd identify somebody with the title internship coordinator. Okay, I've always found that there's somebody called internship coordinator they have another job, but they coordinate the internships. Okay, they might be in HR, they might not. This site has been hosting virtual career fairs every couple of weeks. virtualcareerfair.io. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate that. Good on you. Thank you for coming into the live stream today and sharing that information. I'll check that out, and certainly if that's valuable, I'll post it to my LinkedIn page. Okay, any other questions out there? Career fairs? Yes, Venki, of course. Some of this is we think that internships or fill in the job description or job title or circumstance in the blank, right, is different than looking for a regular job. And traditionally it's not. The process might be a little different, but in terms of the company side of things, but you as a candidate, it's the same process. It's identifying a target market, establishing a brand, building relationships, doing some networking. It's the same. And recognize that there's, sometimes currently, if we're looking at May and they're out in June and all the internships happen then, I can assure you they've already been determined well, a long time ago. Let's just say that. Probably sometime in January, February. So now it's May and I have somebody getting out in June. That might not be enough lead time. Now, what you might find out is that someone can't attend or take advantage of the internship because of COVID. And if that does happen, that may open some late opportunities for people to take advantage of an internship that somebody dropped out of. I'm sure that happens. And in this day and age and in the current state of affairs, I could see that being a reality. So, anybody else out there? Questions? Perspectives? Anything at all? Well, if you don't have any other questions, I do appreciate you showing up, by the way. Share this with people you think might find value. Here every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Happy to take your call. And we're going to start looking for people who are interested in doing one-on-one coaching, right? A one-on-one coaching call on Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I would look for somebody to send me a private message on LinkedIn to be considered. I'll send you a special link. It'll give you access to the system, and you and I can have a live conversation here on Restream. Restream's a great service. I'm so glad I have it. Private message on LinkedIn. Yeah, thanks, Scott. Appreciate you being here. So, good to have you. Scott, did you have any questions? Venki. Hasina, did you have any questions? Kim's on here. Do you have any questions? Erica, good to see you. Do you have any questions? Stay engaged, people. I know lots of people are interviewing, okay? Lots of people interviewing. In fact, I had my first candidate in the last 6 weeks actually get an on-site. It's an on-site interview with an executive leadership team, and there was 4 of them total, and they all sat at the 4 corners of a large conference room. And so they did the on-site interview in a conference room, fairly large one, at 4 corners. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Oh, good. Well, Scott, we're talking about anything related to career. Maybe that's career mapping, networking, interviewing, market planning, leadership, current events. You know, leadership is one of the things I occasionally talk about on here, but I find it very encouraging when I see articles on LinkedIn about companies that are doing across-the-board cuts in salary rather than laying off or firing or doing a reduction in force. And I can tell that Simon Sinek is having an impact because a lot of his philosophies he's been espousing now for the last decade are actually making waves. I know personally a friend of mine did exactly the same. Instead of firing a bunch of people, he peeled back everybody's salaries so that they could stay afloat longer. And yes, they may be taking PPP money, but they may just pay it back. They may not actually spend it. What would be the best way to share that happy hour? Well, if you're on LinkedIn, Hasina, you should see at the bottom of your window a share button or a share, like the little share icon with an arrow. Just go ahead and click that and share it with your network. And just say, hey, this guy in my network has got some free career coaching, some educational content every Friday at 3. Hey, if I get enough people doing this, or actually I might just offer to do it every day. I might pick some times during the day to hop on and have these conversations. Yes, of course. Thank you, Kimberly. I sent a link. It was chapter number 8. Think your address, LinkedIn address to do correct. Well, just share. If you're on the video, there's a share button at the bottom of the page. Just share it with your network. We're just looking to get a wider audience, get more people involved. I'm here as a resource. So if you have topics you want me to cover, send me those topics. I can come up with some, but I'd rather address and approach and satisfy your needs than my own. So that's something to think about. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a nice weekend and happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. I'm going to be celebrating that as well. Stay safe, stay healthy. Take your vitamins. Vitamin C evidently is a good one. Lots of it. And then we'll see you next Career Happy Hour, next FAQ Friday. Is what I used to call it. Good. And then if you came in late to this process and this is the first video you've seen, regardless of the platform, I do have a playlist on YouTube with all of the videos. So if you want to go grab those and review that, or review this book, get a copy of the book and go along with us as we read it, I think you'll find it really valuable. Okay. Thanks, Venki. Have a great weekend. Take care, everybody.